With the Mamdani win last night, the historic milestones set are significant.
And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election.
New York City's first South Asian mayor, the first Muslim mayor, the youngest mayor since the 1890s. Mayor Zohran Mamdani with me in studio this morning. You were fired up last night.
Yes, I was. It's a pleasure to be on.
Good to have you here. Congratulations. I know you were ahead in the polls, but talk to me about the conversations with your wife and your parents when you saw those first numbers come in.
You know, it was a moment of anticipation, also a moment of anxiety, of waiting until we could actually get a glimpse of what the election would look like. But it was a joy to be sitting there with my wife and with close members of my team as we started to take in what more than a year of work has looked like for New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs.
You know, you've been so busy with the campaign, but some thoughts have to go to transition. You've got good people working with you as well. What will the next 2 months look like?
You know, we have 57 days, and those are 57 days to start to do the work of preparing for January 1st, to hit the ground running, because New Yorkers deserve a city hall that is not only dedicated, but is also going to deliver on actually addressing the cost of living crisis. And so for me, the directive here has to be one of ensuring that it is excellence that characterizes the people I surround myself with, both in the appointments, in the team, and in the general expectation that is being set for my city hall.
You were criticized in the campaign by your opponent as being someone who was campaigning on slogans, that these were things that were not attainable. And I think by any analysis, you would have to look at them and say that some of them will be difficult to obtain. Fast and free buses isn't as simple as announcing that it's fast and free buses. You've got to get the support of the governor, the support of the legislature, the support of the MTA. What happens next on those initiatives to make sure that if they can't be completely implemented, at least the spirit of the will of the voters is incorporated into policy?
You know, we get to work on delivering them. That's what has to be the next steps here. And I think many have also asked what happens next for the 100,000 volunteers of the campaign who brought us to this point. And I've told so many of those New Yorkers that this is now a struggle that they are a part of beyond just the ballot box, but also in organizing to deliver these things. And I'm proud to have the endorsement of Governor Hochul, to have had the endorsement of Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins of the state Senate. These are also endorsements of an agenda of affordability, and I'm confident in delivering these same policies that we ran on for more than the last year.
I want to talk about this campaign and the way it played out. I have a clip from your speech last night when you were talking about your rival. I'll play it now.
I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name.
It got personal.
You know, this was a race which I think was too often about the other candidates in it and not enough about the people who are looking to struggle to survive in the city. And
But were you angry with him for the way that his side made it personal?
You know, I was quite disappointed in the nature of the bigotry and the racism that we saw in the final weeks. I'm also looking forward to delivering a city where New Yorkers can expect more from their leaders, where they can expect to focus on what keeps those New Yorkers up at night. And no matter how much, millions of dollars were spent in trying to make it seem as if I was the person who would keep New Yorkers up at night, what I found from New Yorkers that it was the cost of rent, groceries, childcare, again and again. That's what we're going to focus on.
Did you speak to either the former governor or the current mayor yesterday?
The former governor did not call, did speak to Curtis Sliwa, however.
And what about Mayor Adams?
No, Mayor Adams I have not spoken to.
Have there been conversations in terms of how they'll accommodate you in the transition?
I look forward to speaking with Mayor Adams and his administration about this next period of 57 days, because we owe it to this city to be ready on January 1st, start delivering.
In our political coverage last night, Stu Lozer was doing some analysis and said that he saw that there was a significant amount of anti-Mamdani vote as opposed to a pro-Cuomo vote. It still resulted in votes for Andrew Cuomo. How do you connect with those voters now who had, for whatever reason, fear or trepidation about you being elected mayor?
You know, I don't begrudge New Yorkers who were skeptical, and I don't begrudge them because they were subjected to around $40 million in attack ads. So for many New Yorkers, if they opened their mailbox, turned on their TV, or put on their radio, they would hear something or the other about why they should fear me. My job now is to lead the entirety of the city, and I'm looking forward to it because no matter what your political party is, no matter what your politics, you are facing the same affordability crisis. You are having to pay the same kind of rent, the same kind of groceries, the same kind of childcare, the same fare to get on the bus. And that's where City Hall can actually be a partner in making life easier in the city.
You know, you have passion for those issues, the child care theme, the grocery theme, the fast and free buses, the freeze the rent. I've got them all burned into my head as well, which says something about the success of your campaign themes. But there are so many other issues. You didn't get into the administration for children's services or for senior services. Really not much talk about the Department of Health or the Department of Sanitation. Now you've got to keep a handle on all of that. How do you get up to speed?
I think the key thing here is hiring people who are excellent and have shown a track record of results in their field. And I'm going to be looking to put together an administration that is able to deliver on any issue, no matter if it's been considered by government to be too big of a crisis to contend with or too small of an issue to actually care about. We're going to show New Yorkers that we can do both.
There was so much national attention, international attention. We saw that with the number of reporters assembled at your big event at the Brooklyn Paramount last night.
Very different from the beginning of the campaign.
Oh, but that's what I wanted to talk about now, because suddenly this has gone from one guy trying to make a name for himself in the primary to what some people are describing as a playbook for a struggling Democratic Party that has the Democratic Party underestimated the power of younger voters to get on and propel them to victory. Tell me about that national phenomenon and how much weight is on you because of it.
You know, I try to keep my horizons looking like that cover of the New Yorker where the world ends at New Jersey. But I do think that, you know, about a year ago when President Trump won the general election, there were a lot of obituaries that were written about the Democratic Party's ability to connect with young voters, with young men, especially with Asian voters. There were many, you know, opinion pieces put out that these were voters that were now forever being lost to the Republican Party. And what we've showed in our campaign is that if you speak to New Yorkers without the condescension that is often too typical in our politics, you speak to their concerns in their lives, they will respond in kind. And the turnout that we saw from young people, it's not just turning out to vote, which was incredible. It's also turning out to canvass, to knock on doors. We knocked on 3 million doors over the course of this campaign. Yeah. And you cannot separate this mandate that we won from how many New Yorkers were out there speaking to their neighbors about a campaign to deliver on affordability, an agenda we haven't seen in terms of ambitions since the days of Fiorello LaGuardia.
President Trump has demonstrated an attraction to the shiniest political object of the moment.
I tried to get the makeup done to remove some of the shine.
He was, as you were speaking last night, he was basically saying, game on. Is it maybe a miscalculation to provoke him rather than just let him find another shiny object?
You know, I have said time and again that I will work with the president if he wants to work together to deliver on his campaign promises of cheaper groceries or a lower cost of living. But for too long, what New Yorkers have seen is a mayor who has been willing to work with the president at the expense of those New Yorkers. And I want to make it very clear that if the president looks to come after the people of this city, then I will be there standing up for them every step of the way.
All right, final question, somewhat less serious. Much has been made about your rent-stabilized apartment. I haven't been inside the apartment.
I'll be the next time.
I assume it's less than 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's not very big.
You have 11,000 square feet waiting for you at Gracie Mansion. Do you intend to move in?
You know, it's funny. They say don't measure the drapes, and so I didn't, and now everyone's asking me for a ruler. So I don't yet have an answer on where I'm going to be living, but I can tell you where I'm going to be working in that City Hall.
Good to have you in this morning. Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.